The Arizona sun was a hammer, and the Verde River was a brown, churning snake. Lily Henderson heard the scream just as she was thinking of her own thirst, a thought that had been her constant companion for 2 days on this dusty trail. It wasn't an animal. It was a child. And it was a sound that would change her life forever. The year was 1885. Lily was 22, the daughter of a physician from Phoenix, a woman who knew more about setting bones than setting a table for supper. She was on her way to Camp Verde with medical supplies, an act of mercy for a doctor she'd never met. It was the kind of journey that made other women whisper and men shake their heads. The frontier was no place for a woman alone. Lily didn't care. The frontier needed healers more than it needed opinions. The scream came again, sharper this time, a splinter of pure terror that cut through the monotonous rhythm of her horse's hooves. Her head snapped toward the river. She saw it. A small figure, caught in the swollen current, arms flailing against the muddy water. An Apache boy, no more than 8 years old. Without a second thought, she spurred her horse, a powerful mare named Mercy, toward the riverbank. The boy was being swept downstream fast, his head disappearing under the surface for longer and longer stretches. "Hold on!" she yelled, her voice raw, knowing he couldn't possibly hear her over the river's roar. She dismounted in a single fluid motion, a skill learned over long summers at her uncle's ranch. She kicked off her heavy riding boots and, without hesitation, dove into the cold, angry water. The current seized her immediately, a powerful, invisible hand trying to drag her under, to pull her into its muddy embrace. But Lily was strong. She fought against it, her strokes powerful and sure, angling downstream to intercept the drowning child. The icy water shocked her system, but adrenaline was afire in her veins. She saw the boy's face, his eyes wide with a terror that was quickly fading into a frightening emptiness. He went under again. This time, he didn't resurface. Lily took a deep, ragged breath and dove. The world went brown and silent. Her lungs burned. Her hands groped blindly in the murky darkness. Panic, cold and sharp, began to claw at the edges of her resolve. Then her fingers brushed against something. A small, limp arm. She wrapped her own arm around the child's chest, a dead weight now, and kicked for the surface with every last ounce of her strength. She broke through, gasping for air, holding the boy's head above the churning water. He was unconscious. His lips were the color of a bruised plum. The current was still dragging them, but she saw it, a fallen cottonwood, its branches reaching into the river like a skeletal hand. An anchor. Her muscles screamed in protest. Her waterlogged dress was a lead weight. But the thought of the small life in her arms, a life she had just pulled back from the brink, gave her a strength she didn't know she possessed. Just as her own strength began to fail, her outstretched fingers closed around a thick, sturdy branch. She pulled them toward the riverbank, her arms shaking with exhaustion. Once in the shallows, she lifted the boy and carried him to dry ground. Her medical training took over, a calm, methodical voice in the storm of her own fear. She turned him on his side, pressing firmly on his small back, forcing the river water from his lungs. "Come on," she whispered, her voice a desperate, urgent prayer. "Breathe for me. Just breathe." After what felt like an eternity, the boy coughed, a violent, racking cough that brought up a stream of muddy water. His dark eyes fluttered open. They were confused, frightened, but they were alive. Lily helped him sit up, her hands checking for other injuries, her voice a low, soothing murmur. "You're safe now," she said. "You're going to be fine." The thunder of approaching hoofbeats made her look up. Her heart leaped into her throat. 3 Apache warriors were riding toward them at a full gallop, their faces grim masks of worry and determination. The lead rider was a magnificent specimen of a man, tall and powerfully built, like a classical statue come to life. His long black hair was adorned with feathers and beads that caught the afternoon sun. Even from a distance, Lily could see the fierce intensity in his dark eyes as they fixed on the small boy beside her. This was no ordinary warrior. He dismounted before his horse had even come to a full stop, rushing to the child's side. He knelt, his large, calloused hands surprisingly gentle as he examined the boy, speaking rapidly in his own tongue. The relief in his voice was a physical thing. This had to be the child's father. The boy, now fully conscious, pointed a trembling finger at Lily and began to speak, his voice a torrent of excited words. The warrior's gaze shifted to her. His eyes, dark and sharp as obsidian, swept over her, taking in her soaked dress, her exhausted state, and the stubborn fire of determination still burning in her own green eyes. "You saved my son," he said. His English was clear, almost perfect, his deep voice carrying a mixture of gratitude and something else, something that looked like respect. "Anyone would have done the same," Lily replied, wringing the water from her long hair. She was suddenly acutely aware of how she must look, a bedraggled, dripping mess, but the warrior's expression held no judgment. "No," he said firmly, standing to his full, impressive height. "Not anyone would risk their life for an Apache child." He paused, his gaze unwavering. "Most of your people would have ridden past." The unspoken truth of his words hung heavy in the air between them. The tensions between settlers and the Apache were a constant, low-grade war, and acts of kindness across that bloody divide were rare and often dangerous. "What's your name?" the warrior asked, his dark eyes studying her face with an intensity that was almost unnerving. "Lily Henderson," she replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "I am Takakota," he said, placing a hand over his heart in a gesture of profound respect. "This is my son, Nayeli." The young boy, now recovered enough to stand on his own shaky legs, looked up at Lily with a look of pure hero worship in his dark eyes. He tugged on his father's arm and said something, his small voice full of awe. Takakota listened, and a small, rare smile touched the corners of his mouth. "Nayeli says you dove into the angry river like a warrior," he translated. "He says you fought the water spirits to save him." "I just did what needed to be done," Lily said modestly. Takakota studied her for a long moment, a silent conversation passing between them. Then he turned and spoke to his other warriors in Apache. They nodded solemnly. Turning back to Lily, he made a declaration that would change the course of her life forever. "You have shown the courage and the heart of our people," Takakota said, his voice now carrying the weight of a formal ceremony. "You risked your life for one of ours without thought of reward or recognition. In our tradition, such acts create bonds that cannot be broken." He stepped closer, and Lily could smell the scent of sage and clean leather that seemed to surround him. His presence was both intimidating and strangely deeply comforting. "By saving my son's life, you have proven yourself worthy of our trust and our protection," he continued. "From this day forward, you are no longer just a white woman who helped an Apache child. You are family." Takakota placed his strong hand on her shoulder, his eyes never leaving hers as he spoke the words that would echo in her mind for the rest of her days. "Now, you are Apache." The weight of his declaration settled over her like a warm blanket. Looking into his sincere eyes, Lily realized that her simple act of human decency had just irrevocably altered her destiny. She was no longer just a doctor's daughter on a journey. She was now connected to these people, to this man, in ways she was only beginning to understand. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape, Lily Henderson stood dripping wet beside the Verde River, unknowingly at the threshold of an adventure that would test everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and where she truly belonged. 3 days passed. Lily found herself in a world she had only ever read about in books, a world she had been taught to fear. Instead of continuing her journey to Camp Verde, she was riding alongside Takakota and his small band toward their tribal settlement, hidden deep in the Superstition Mountains. Her medical supplies, once a simple delivery, had become a bridge between their two worlds. Takakota had explained that their tribal healer, a wise old woman named Ayana, was gravely ill. "Your medicine knowledge could save many lives," he had said, his dark eyes holding a mixture of hope and a cautious uncertainty. "But I understand if you cannot trust us enough to come." Trust. The word was a rare and precious currency in this harsh land. But something in Takakota's honest gaze and the memory of young Naeli's grateful smile had made her decision for her. Now, as they navigated narrow canyon paths that seemed impossible for horses, Lily marveled at the hidden, breathtaking beauty of Apache territory. Red rock formations rose like cathedral spires against the impossibly blue sky. Ancient petroglyphs told the stories of a people who had called this land home for generations. "Your father taught you well," Takakota said, breaking the comfortable silence between them. He rode beside her, his movements in perfect sync with his powerful horse. "The way you saved Naeli." Those were not the actions of someone who merely learned from books. Lily adjusted her hat against the desert sun. Over the past 3 days of travel, she had learned more about the magnificent man beside her. Takakota wasn't just a warrior. He was the war chief of his band, a leader respected for both his tactical brilliance and his surprising efforts to maintain peace with the white settlers when possible. "My father believed that healing was a calling, not just a profession," she replied. "He said that in moments of crisis, your true character reveals itself. I couldn't have lived with myself if I had let that boy drown." "And yet, many of your people see us as less than human," Takakota said quietly. There was no anger in his voice, only a deep, weary sadness that touched Lily's heart. "Not all of us," she said firmly. "Just as I'm learning that not all Apache are the savage raiders the newspapers describe." Takakota's smile was a rare thing, and when it appeared, it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "You learn quickly, Lily Henderson. Perhaps that is why the spirits brought you to us." As they crested a high ridge, the Apache settlement came into view below. It was unlike anything Lily had expected. Instead of a primitive camp, she saw a well-organized community of traditional wickiups nestled alongside more modern adaptations. Children played safely in the shade of ancient cottonwood trees, while women worked on various crafts, and men tended to a herd of fine-looking horses in expertly constructed corrals. "Welcome to our home," Takakota said, noting her surprise. "We are not the uncivilized savages your newspapers write about." Their arrival caused an immediate stir. The entire community seemed to turn out, their faces a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Lily felt the weight of 100 pairs of eyes on her, knowing that her presence here was unprecedented. A white woman in the heart of an Apache camp. An elderly woman approached, her weathered face etched with the lines of a long and difficult life, but her eyes held a sharp, undeniable wisdom and authority. She spoke rapidly to Takakota in Apache, her gaze never leaving Lily's face. "This is Ayana, our medicine woman," Takakota explained. "She is not the one who is ill. She asks if you truly came to help, or if this is some trick by the white soldiers." Lily dismounted, her body stiff from the long ride, and approached the old woman with a gesture of respect her father had taught her. She placed her right hand over her heart. "I came because your people need healing, just as mine do. Sickness does not see the color of a person's skin or know the shape of their prayers." Takakota translated, and Lily watched as Ayana's stern expression softened slightly. The medicine woman nodded and gestured for Lily to follow her to a large wickiup at the center of the settlement. Inside, Lily's medical training kicked in, overriding any fear or uncertainty. A middle-aged warrior lay on a pallet of furs, his body burning with fever, his breathing labored. Several other patients in the dwelling showed similar symptoms. Her heart sank as she recognized the signs. Typhoid fever, a disease that could move through a community like wildfire, devastating it if not treated properly. "How long has he been ill?" she asked, already unpacking her medical supplies. 4 days, Takakota said, his voice grim. 3 others have fallen sick since yesterday. Lily worked quickly, a whirlwind of focused energy. She administered what medicines she had, but more importantly, she began to teach. Through Takakota, she explained to Ayana the critical importance of isolating the sick and ensuring a clean water source. The elderly medicine woman, far from being resistant to this new knowledge, listened intently, asking intelligent, insightful questions that showed her own deep understanding of the healing arts. As night fell, Lily had established a makeshift infirmary. She and Ayana, despite their language barrier, had formed a powerful working partnership, a seamless blend of modern medical science and ancient herbal wisdom. Takakota found her as she emerged from the medical wiki-up, the exhaustion of the last few days finally catching up to her. He carried a bowl of savory stew and a cup of fragrant herbal tea. "Ayana made this for you," he said gently. "She says you fight the sickness spirits with the heart of a true healer." Lily accepted the food gratefully, realizing she hadn't eaten all day. "Your medicine woman is remarkable. She understands illness better than many trained doctors I know." They sat together on a thick buffalo hide outside the wiki-up. The desert night was surprisingly cool after the day's blistering heat. The stars blazed overhead with an intensity Lily had never seen in the city, and the quiet sounds of the settlement settling into its evening rhythm created a peaceful, almost magical atmosphere. "You could have continued to Camp Verde," Takakota said quietly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Why did you really stay to help us?" Lily considered his question, watching the firelight dance across his strong, handsome features. "Because when I looked into your son's eyes after I pulled him from that river, I saw something that reminded me why I learned medicine in the first place. It wasn't about race or politics. It was about one human being helping another." "And now?" Takakota asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Now I'm beginning to understand what you meant when you said I was Apache," she replied. "It's not about blood or birth. It's about choosing to be part of something larger than yourself." Takakota turned to face her fully. In the firelight, Lily could see something profound in his dark, liquid eyes. "My people have a saying," he said, his voice a low rumble. "The heart knows no boundaries that the spirit does not create. When I saw you risk your life for Nayeli, I knew you had the spirit of our people." The intimacy of the moment was so intense, it was almost a physical thing, but it was broken by urgent voices from the medical wiki-up. Lily and Takakota rushed inside to find one of the patients in distress. Working together, they managed to stabilize the young warrior, but the crisis served as a stark reminder of how precarious the situation remained. As dawn approached, Lily dozed fitfully beside her patients, startling awake whenever one of them stirred. She opened her eyes to find Takakota sitting vigil near the entrance, his presence a silent, solid wall of protection and comfort. "You should rest," she whispered. "As should you," he replied. "But I find sleep elusive when those I care about are in danger." The way he looked at her when he said, "those I care about," made Lily's heart skip a beat. She was falling for this remarkable man, this impossible man. The gulf between their two worlds seemed vast and uncrossable. "Takakota," she began, not even sure what she was going to say, but he held up a hand. "I know," he said softly. "I feel it too. But there are complications you don't yet understand." Before she could ask what he meant, young Naeli appeared at the entrance, his face bright with excitement. He spoke rapidly to his father in Apache, pointing toward the eastern ridge. Takakota's expression darkened instantly. "Soldiers," he translated grimly. "A cavalry patrol is approaching our hidden valley." Lily's blood ran cold. She knew what this meant. Her presence here could be twisted, used as evidence of an Apache raid on white settlements, or worse, as proof of collaboration. For Takakota and his people, harboring a white woman could provide the very excuse the military needed to attack. "I have to go to them," Lily said, standing quickly. "I can explain." "No," Takakota said firmly, rising to block her path. "You don't understand how they think. They will not see a healer helping sick people. They will see a white woman who has been corrupted by savages, and they will use it as justification for violence." The sound of approaching hoofbeats grew louder, closer. Lily could see the fear in the eyes of the Apache families as they began to emerge from their homes. Children were quickly gathered and hidden while the warriors reached for their weapons. "There has to be another way," Lily insisted, her mind racing. "I won't let my presence here bring harm to your people." Takakota looked at her then, his expression a mixture of profound sadness and something else, a decision that would change everything. "There is one way," he said slowly, "but it would mean leaving your old life behind, forever." The morning sun crested the mountains as the sound of cavalry boots and jingling spurs echoed off the canyon walls. Lily looked into Takakota's eyes and saw her future reflected there. Dangerous, uncertain, but filled with a love and a purpose she had never imagined possible. The choice before her was more than just staying or leaving. It was about choosing between the safety of her familiar world and the uncertain future of a love that transcended boundaries that others insisted must never be crossed. The thunder of the cavalry horses grew closer, a drumbeat of impending doom, as Lily faced the most crucial decision of her life. Takakota's proposal hung in the air between them like desert lightning, dangerous, electric, and impossible to ignore. "What are you suggesting?" she whispered, though her heart already knew the answer. "A ceremony," Takakota said, his voice steady despite the approaching danger. "An Apache marriage ritual. As my wife, you would be under tribal protection. The soldiers could not take you without declaring war on our entire band. It is our law, and it is a law they are bound by treaty to respect." Lily's breath caught in her throat. Marriage. It would be a complete transformation of her identity, an abandonment of her old world. She would become truly Apache, not just in spirit, but in the eyes of both cultures. "Takakota," she said, her hand reaching up to touch his face, his skin warm and rough beneath her fingers. "Once we do this, there's no going back. I would be considered a traitor by my own people. You would be risking everything for a white woman." His dark eyes blazed with a fierce determination. "I lost my first wife to the white man's diseases 3 winters ago," he said, his voice a low, painful rumble. "I thought my heart had died with her. But when I saw you risk your life for Naeli, when I watched you work beside Ayana without judgment or fear, I knew the spirits had given me a second chance at love, a life without you now. That is the risk I am unwilling to take." The sound of the horses was so close now that the ground beneath them seemed to tremble. Dust from their approach began to settle over the camp. The Apache warriors took up their defensive positions, their faces grim. Time was running out. "Ayana!" Takakota called urgently. The medicine woman emerged from the infirmary, her ancient eyes immediately understanding the gravity of the situation. He spoke rapidly in Apache, and her weathered face broke into a knowing smile, a flash of light in the face of the approaching danger. "She says the spirits have been waiting for this moment," Takakota translated. "She saw it in her dreams after you saved Naeli. She saw a bridge being built between our 2 worlds. Lily looked around at the Apache people who had welcomed her, at young Naley peering out from behind a warrior's leg, his small face a mixture of fear and excitement. She looked at the patients she had been treating, who were now strong enough to stand and watch. These people had become her family. "If I do this," she said, her voice growing stronger, "I do it not just for protection. I do it because I choose this life. I choose you, and I choose them." Takakota's smile could have rivaled the desert sunrise. "Then we do this now," he said, taking her hands in his, "before the soldiers can interfere." Ayana began to chant, her voice ancient and powerful, carrying across the settlement like a call to witness. Apache families emerged from their hiding places, not in fear, but in solidarity, forming a protective circle around Lily and Takakota. If the cavalry wanted to interrupt a wedding, they would have to do it in front of the entire tribe. The ceremony was unlike anything Lily had ever witnessed. Ayana painted their faces with sacred symbols, using clay and crushed berries, while the tribe sang traditional wedding songs that seemed to make the very mountains resonate with their power. Takakota produced a magnificent necklace of turquoise and silver that had belonged to his grandmother, a piece of his family's history. "With this, you become not just my wife, but a daughter of the Apache Nation," he said, his voice thick with emotion as he placed it around her neck. "Do you accept this bond, knowing it can never be broken?" "I accept," Lily replied, her voice carrying clearly across the canyon. "I choose love over fear, family over familiarity, and courage over comfort." Just as Ayana pronounced them married according to Apache law, the cavalry patrol rode into the settlement. 20 soldiers, led by a stern-faced captain, surveyed the scene with obvious confusion and suspicion. Captain Morrison dismounted, his hand resting on the hilt of his saber. "I'm looking for a white woman who was reportedly captured by this band. We tracked her horse to this area." Takakota stepped forward, placing himself protectively in front of Lily, but she moved to stand at his side. She would face this as his equal. "I am Lily Henderson," she said clearly, "and I was not captured. I came here of my own free will to provide medical assistance." The captain's eyes narrowed as he took in her Apache-painted face and the turquoise necklace that proclaimed her new status. "Miss Henderson, you appear to have been influenced by these savages. We're here to rescue you and return you to civilization." "Captain Morrison," Lily replied, recognizing him now from her previous travels through the territory. "I appreciate your concern, but I need no rescue. I am exactly where I choose to be." "You don't understand the gravity of your situation," Morrison insisted. "These people have corrupted your thinking. You're suffering from what we call captivity psychosis. You'll thank us once we get you back to proper society." Lily felt Takakota tense beside her, but she squeezed his hand, a silent request to let her handle this. She stepped forward, every inch the confident physician she had always been. "Captain, I am a trained medical professional, fully capable of making my own decisions. I came here to treat an outbreak of typhoid fever, which I have successfully done. Furthermore, I have just married War Chief Takakota according to Apache law, making me a member of this tribe under territorial agreements." The captain's face flushed a deep, angry red. "You cannot marry a savage. Such a union is not recognized by civilized law." "But it is recognized by Apache law," Takakota said, speaking for the first time, his English perfect and his tone unyielding. "And according to the treaties your own government signed, tribal marriages are valid within our territory." Morrison looked around at the circle of grim-faced Apache warriors watching him intently. His soldiers shifted nervously in their saddles. This was not the simple rescue mission they had been expecting. "I could arrest you for harboring a white woman," Morrison said to Takakota, but his voice lacked conviction. "You could try," Takakota replied calmly, but that would mean attacking a peaceful settlement during a wedding ceremony, which would violate several federal treaties. I believe your superiors would not approve. Lily watched the standoff with growing tension. She could see Morrison weighing his career against a diplomatic nightmare. Besides, she added, I'm hardly being held against my will. I've successfully treated their sick, participated in their daily life, and chosen to marry their leader. Does this sound like the behavior of someone being held captive? Young Naeli chose that moment to run forward, wrapping his small arms around Lily's legs and chattering excitedly in his own tongue. His joy and obvious affection for her were impossible to misinterpret, even for the suspicious soldiers. The boy is saying that the white medicine woman saved his life, Takakota translated with a soft smile. He calls her my new mother, and he asks why the soldiers look so angry at his family's wedding celebration. Captain Morrison stared at the scene. The obviously healthy Apache settlement, the recovered patients now emerging from the infirmary to join the celebration, and Lily standing proudly beside her new husband, clearly there by her own free choice. This is highly irregular, he muttered, but Lily could see his resolve weakening. Captain, she said gently, I understand this situation is unusual, but I am a free American citizen, making a free choice about my own life. I found love, purpose, and a people who need my medical skills. Isn't that what we all hope for? One of the younger soldiers whispered something to Morrison, who nodded grimly. Very well, Mrs. Takakota, he said finally, stumbling over the name. But understand that once we leave here, we cannot guarantee your safety. If you are making this choice freely, then you must live with the consequences. I understand completely, Lily replied, and I am prepared to face whatever comes. As the cavalry prepared to leave, Morrison turned back one last time. For what it's worth, ma'am, I hope you've chosen wisely. I have, Lily said, looking up at Takakota with absolute certainty in her eyes. I've chosen love. After the soldiers departed, the wedding celebration resumed with even greater joy. The Apache people had witnessed their new sister choose them over her old life, and their acceptance of her was complete and permanent. That night, as Lily and Takakota sat together under a canopy of desert stars, she reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her here. In saving one small boy from drowning, she had found her true home and purpose. Do you regret anything? Takakota asked, his arm warm and strong around her shoulders. Only that it took me 22 years to find where I truly belonged, she replied. I thought I was traveling to Camp Verde to deliver medical supplies. Instead, I found my destiny. Takakota smiled and pointed to young Naeli, who was sleeping peacefully nearby, exhausted from the day's excitement. He was right, you know. You did fight the water spirits to save him, and in doing so, you saved us all. Lily looked around at her new family, Ayana organizing the wedding gifts, Apache children playing games in the firelight, warriors sharing stories of the day's events. She thought of her old life in Phoenix, of her father's medical practice, of the comfortable but restrictive world she had left behind. I never understood what it meant to be truly free until today, she said. I was living the life others expected of me, following paths others had chosen. Here, I'm not just useful, I'm essential. I'm not just accepted, I'm beloved. Takakota took her hands in his, the turquoise wedding necklace gleaming in the firelight. Welcome home, my brave wife. Welcome to the rest of your life. As the celebration continued around them, Lily Henderson, now Lily, wife of Takakota, healer to the Apache, and mother to Naeli, knew with absolute certainty that she had made the right choice. Love had called across cultural boundaries, and she had answered with her whole heart. The desert wind carried the sounds of laughter and Apache songs into the night, celebrating not just a marriage, but the triumph of love over fear, of understanding over prejudice, and of the courage it takes to choose one's own path in life. Some journeys lead us exactly where we plan to go, but the most meaningful journeys lead us home to places we never knew we were looking for, into the arms of love we never expected to find, and toward a destiny we never could have imagined but can no longer live without. And in the heart of the Superstition Mountains, as the stars wheeled overhead in their ancient patterns, two souls from different worlds became one, proving that love truly knows no boundaries that the spirit does not create. What an incredible journey we've witnessed together. Lily faced the ultimate choice: abandon everything familiar for love and belonging, or play it safe and lose her soulmate forever. Do you think she made the right decision? In her place, would you have had the courage to marry Takakota and embrace a completely different life? And what about Captain Morrison? Was he truly trying to help, or was he blinded by the prejudices of his time? These are the kinds of impossible choices that define who we truly are. If stories like Lily and Takakota's epic love saga move you, if you believe love should conquer all boundaries, then you understand why we pour our hearts into bringing you these powerful tales every week. Your subscription doesn't just help our channel grow, it tells us that somewhere out there, someone believes in the same timeless truths about courage, love, and following your heart that we do. But here's what I'm really curious about. Do you think Lily and Takakota's marriage will survive the challenges ahead? Will their love story inspire other star-crossed couples to choose love over convention? Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of others who refuse to settle for ordinary love stories. Because next week, we're diving into another heart-stopping tale that will make you question everything you thought you knew about sacrifice, destiny, and the lengths people will go to for true love. Don't let this be the last time these characters touch your heart.